There's a poem by Wallace Stevens that goes, Chieftain Afukin of Azcan in Kaftan of Tan with henna heckles halt. Damned universal cock, as if the sun were blackamoor to bear your blazing tail. Begone, uh, your world is you, I am my world. You 10-foot poet among inchlings, fat, begone. An inchling bristles in these pines, bristles and points their Appalachian tangs, and fears not portly Azcan nor his hools. um, well, I find that poem extremely entertaining, just linguistically. But it really is saying that there's always going to be a new 10-foot poet. You know, there's always going to be a new way to put things. You know, and even if you have to go through a sort of degradation of the meaning or of the style in order to get there, even if art or poetry at least has become progressively crappier but more original, it still amazes me how there are things that still haven't been said. And that poem is what inspired me to write this. It's called Gray Spring, and goes thunder clanging like Hephaestus, a deep thud, a light beyond the periphery of the hills. The hills droop like benign old men. There is a minute without sound in the sky. As an addition to the portent, rain begins everywhere. Slakes the marasmus and leaves the child land saturated like a gray sponge. It murmurs against surfaces and down into vermiculate gulfs of dried sewage slides. The rain tells of a span in life not properly consumed by time, as if the moment were a presence jut from the wedge created by an imperfect second. Mosquitoes drown, then copulate in puddles. Across the way one spies a dog drenched and hunching beneath the wreckage of a dead tree. I am inside, but somehow it is no different. A base, a more vicious nature drums in my life and is black as the clouds, and from the clouds the lightning descends in forked anger. The sky cracks ope as would a skull. I trace an indecipherable cause in the alloy of light, set like a trance of fire for just a moment across this abnormal frontier. There was a time when the world was ruled by lizards, and humanity still then a question that the thunder asks. And even now are we still green for this world, still half created in ourselves, in this jail of psyche we rage against. Unknown is the next level of truth that shall belie the strengths of our greatest men and women. Unknown is the thunder. So, that's it. But I always wonder whether Eliot was right when he said people forget meanings, you know? That people must be reminded of why they're kicking around, or at least be given clues Maybe the only difference is the way that it's expressed, but maybe you could wiggle through the cracks and describe something that hasn't been described before. What then? There's nothing to remind people of because it never was. I mean, does that make it original, even if it's never been described before? I mean, what if it's just stated in a really shitty way? What if it's just... But see, then I think that if it's something new, then, and if it's true, then the truth gives the words beauty. You know? The truth gives that expression beauty. If something is true, I guess it's kind of like, even though the beauty of the words or the beauty of how it is expressed is secondary, well, it's still is important, but you'll find that language has a weird way of syncing up when it's used to express something that people can relate to. So that you're not word conscious anymore. You know, you're self-conscious. I always thought that was kind of interesting. I always thought that you had to conquer the words before the meanings. But it's not that you have to conquer the words before the meanings or the meanings before the words. It's that you have to conquer the experience. You have to experience things. And that experience reveals to you various truths and falsities and everything in between, and things that are beautiful and things that are ugly and things that are ugly because they're beautiful, which I guess doesn't make much sense, but if something is too wrapped up in itself, you see the beauty and the passion of it, but it's just conveyed in a wrong way. So it's all about translating and expressing and meanings and blah blah blah. So, I mean, there's not really much left to say, but if I could go back in time with the same experiences I had, I'd be a much better writer because I experienced those things. I mean, experience is what makes a person. I mean, I feel like I feel like we're given more problems than we're able to fix in our own lives. And if fixing your problems makes you a more finished human, and considering that the idea that we're given more problems than we can fix, are we always going to be unfinished? Are we always going to be fragments of ourselves? Or is there going to be that person who fixes all of their problems in their own life, and the ones that come along during that life? Because then you'd have the closest thing that we as a species could get to as 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 a perfect human. Because no human being is perfect. But if he counters every one of his flaws with a solution, so that those flaws are tertiary or temporary, secondary, ancillary, poop, well then, it would almost seem like those flaws never existed to begin with, making that person flawless. Is a flawless person possible? Or at least in that aspect? Whoa, man. Some shit to think about. Anyway. There it is.